As you may recall from several moons ago, when David Zaslav was put in charge of Warner Brothers after they were bought by Discovery, there is that famous controversy when they memory holed Batgirl. The movie had been made, but, all reports from, pre-screenings and test audiences, were saying it's, a giant garbage fire in the making. And they decided to just memory hole the thing so they can write it off on their taxes. Part of being able to write something off means, well, it can't be consumed. You can't give it away for free. You can't sell it at reduced price. It has to be thrown out or destroyed. Technically, trashing something is a form of destruction, at least for legal purposes, depending on what we're talking about. I'm sure there might be some slight legal distinctions between what a consumable thing is when it comes to entertainment as opposed to a physical product or food, but the principles that underpin all these things are still basically there. If you want to be able to say that this is a failed project and I don't want to have to pay taxes on it because it didn't generate me any revenue, then you're, kind of required to make sure that the thing is no longer consumable. Otherwise, you're not, honoring your side of what allows you to write it off on your taxes. That kind of a thing. So Variety is reporting, apparently, that Disney, who, has recently been announced that they're going to be pulling a bunch of stuff off Disney Plus and possibly Hulu and, ESPN maybe and the other streaming sites they have controlling stake in or control of outright, to the tune of something like $1.5 billion worth of streaming shows that are being yanked are all going to get memory holed so they can write them off. Which means, especially like some of the chatter around Willow back and forth about whether or not it's been canceled, and people trying to say like, oh no, it can come back, or, be re-released on DVD, or we'll put out another season someday. That's all horse shit. If that show's amongst the shows that are being memory holed like this so that Disney can write it off, that means that these shows will never be allowed to see the light of day again. And here we come to, I guess, the dark side of streaming service entertainment. That's always kind of been there, and an unrealized potentiality, and we're now starting to, see it come home to roost. And that, if something happens to the streaming service, and, if, say, for some reason Netflix had some terrible confluence of events that causes, the entire streaming site to go down, it doesn't mean that those shows that Netflix is producing are necessarily going to be put on DVD or get shopped out to other, streaming services or television stations to show them. There might be a few here and there amongst the popular ones that there's, some sort of market demand for still. But the vast bulk of the things on Netflix would just disappear. All this deficit spending that all these streaming sites have been doing to make all these overpriced shows so that they can basically fluff the numbers as much as they can to their investors, talking about how they're getting all these new sorts of subscribers, on a month-to-month basis, doesn't work if the subscription numbers fall flat or start to decline. A lot of these shows aren't bringing in enough subscribers, if any. Did anyone actively decide to subscribe to Disney Plus to watch Willow? I mean, I watched it, and I was curious to watch it. I made myself finish it, despite the fact that I felt like it was all right at the beginning, and it just kind of got more and more lackluster as it went along. But, I didn't subscribe to Disney Plus for it. I already had a Disney Plus for other reasons. Did anyone who wasn't already subscribed to Disney Plus have any desire to watch that show? Probably not. And probably the same thing for a lot of the other shows that they're yanking. They can't show that brought in any new subscribers. And if they're not getting any views on the lower tier cost versions of the service where you have to watch commercials, to generate revenue for them, if no one's watching it very much on those versions of your monthly plan, well then the show's just not bringing in any money. So from a financial point of view, you're better off tabling it and at least making it so that you don't have to pay taxes for having the goddamn thing on your streaming service. But that also means that the people who were fans of that item, whatever it was, are never going to get to see it again. Its growth potential is completely destroyed. Anyone who happened to do any bootleg recordings of their own of those programs, you're now going to have access to some unique footage, especially as the years go by and they become increasingly forgotten. And considering that, it's not just Disney, Paramount, Apple TV, Netflix, famously, who spends, billions of dollars a year on making shows, but doesn't really quite make that much back. All all these streaming services are vulnerable to having something like this happen. I mean, it's kind of been going on TV for quite some time. Shows that get pulled, and if they never re-air them, they never re-air them. They might not be written off in such a way that they're not allowed to ever re-air them or reuse the footage. But being put in a film canister and buried in a basement is still another way of memory holing, where someone might not ever get a chance to see your thing again. I don't know. Is it just desserts for foolish investment spending? Is it a tragedy for, the writers and actors and artists and CGI people and directors and, all the myriad people who put on all the work and effort to make these shows and movies that are just being shit canned? I mean, at least they did get paid for doing the work in the first place, so, there's that. Some people got to see it. Well, unless they made Batgirl, those people don't get to show off their product even to their family. But, expect more. When the pandemic first started, and people were all, real uptight about what the future of Hollywood was going to be, and, looking at it several years later now, I mean, actually quite a few big companies have been shuffled around and changed and bought by new people, effectively making them new companies, even if they still have the same old branding put on them. There has been radical changes, and Disney is not too big to fail. Disney's size has always been its problem. Most of Disney's income traditionally had been through their theme parks. They have a huge physical footprint that no other entertainment business has, because Netflix doesn't have giant parks in multiple major global cities around the world to maintain. And without that income, they've been using these investor tricks of, look how great Disney Plus is. Oh my God, The Mandalorian is generating so much buzz. Our brand recognition has never been better. Please give us money on the promise that we'll turn around and give you some more money back one day. And they've been kind of just basically, conducting this totally legal pyramid scheme that we condone in our society at the top levels for the rich people. And now here we are. I'm sure quite a few people watching this are they're getting their just desserts camp. I'm partially have at least one foot in that of they've been fools. They've been fools for years. Part of why so many of these companies embrace all the ESG stuff is because it's an investment scam, because they're not really making any real money. They're just spending tons of money. And that faucet might finally be running dry. But in either case, I guess Disney Plus is going to have less content on it now, which couldn't hurt it, considering it had too much stuff that I was never interested in watching anyway, so what do I care? Anyway, I guess that's about it. Stay waspinated.